All right, so we're recording. So we're looking at question 1. Identify specific actions that would shift a production possibilities curve outward. So what we're talking about is economic growth. So anything that's going to, and we've had questions, I think we've had 2 or 3 on your quizzes that ask you what types of things, what would cause economic growth. But what we're asking is what would shift this production possibilities curve out? Things like better technology, better education, things like that. And I've given you a website. So you've got study guides from prior quizzes that I've actually given you websites that talks about, what types of things have to happen in order to get economic growth. So that should be pretty easy for you. Number 2, understand the relationship between quantity demanded and quantity supplied when the price is below, above, or equal to the market equilibrium price. This is just simply sketching out a simple demand and supply curve and thinking about it, right? So if the, let me go back to this. If the relationship between quantity demanded and quantity supplied, if they're equal, right? If we're here, then price is exactly equal, right, to the market equilibrium price, isn't it? If we're up here, then our demand is here and our supply is here, right? So the quantity, so the price is actually so if the quantity demanded is less than the quantity supplied, right? If the quantity demanded is less than the quantity supplied, then that means the price is above the equilibrium of price, right? If the quantity supplied is less than the quantity demanded, that means the price is below the equilibrium price. So for this type of a question, if you draw this simple, if you have a come to the exam, both the final and the AP with a pen or a pencil and a scratch of paper, blank paper that you can just do these sketches on. And if you just do a really quick sketch of whatever the question is describing, you will be able to figure out the answer really quickly, okay? Number 3. And how many did I actually get done? Just 3. Okay, so I'm going to have to wing it here. Okay, so 3. Julia was asking, she was confused about this because the way I worded it was, identify the concept that is illustrated by a log function. And just so you know what I mean by that, if you just Google it, which I did up here, you can see that a log function looks like this, right? This is a log function. So it looks like a concave curve. So the question is, or what we're actually looking at here is, what is the concept that is illustrated by a curve that looks like this, right? It means that as I consume, or you consume, or as a consumer consumes more of anything, the utility, their happiness, or what they can actually, the use they get out of it diminishes, right? So if I have, let's just think about money, right? If I have $0 and I'm here, okay, And and I'm totally broke. I am poor. I have nothing. And somebody says, I'm going to give you $200,000. Okay. Oops, sorry about that. 200,000. Just, and I don't have anything. And I have nothing, no house, nothing. And somebody says, well, that's going to mean that from here to here, I'm going to gain a lot in what we call utility. It's going to go up really high, right? Really high. I'm going to go from here to here. It's going to be a very steep curve, right? Now, if I already have 200,000 and somebody says, you know what, I'm going to give you 200,000 more, which means I'm going to go from 200,000 to 400,000. Well, 200,000 is a lot. I've got, I'm doing fine. But if I go from there to here, then I'm not going to get as much out of, whoops, sorry about that. I'm not going to get as much out in utility for the second 200,000 as I did for the first, because I'm already, at this point I have, I can get a house, I can, I can get clothes, I can get everything, right? This just enables me to get luxury. So I don't really get as much out of it. So our curve, you still gain, but you don't gain as much, right? So what is that a principle? That's the principle of what? You guys, of diminishing what? Diminishing marginal utility, isn't it? In other words, the change, the marginal utility is the change, right? So as you get more and more of something, the increase in your total utility or the marginal utility actually decreases. So if you were to graph the marginal utility of this total utility curve right here, it would look like this, look something like that. Okay? Because as you go up in quantity, the increase or the marginal change is less and less and less and less and less and less until it becomes zero. No change at all, which would be here, right? No marginal change would be zero, which means this total curve is flat, okay? So that's the concept of diminishing marginal return. All right, guys? That's that one. Number 4, identify the specific action a perfectly competitive profit-maximizing firm should take when given average cost, average variable cost, product price, and marginal cost. Okay, so what we're really talking about here is that when you look at, and I'm going to see if I can find a graph here really quickly, which I don't think I have here. Yeah, I've got it here. Okay, let me move some things out of the way here so we're not so confused. Let me just get this one thing here. If you, sorry about that. If you look at a scenario, right? And this is actually one for, this is actually, let's see, identify approximate firms you take. Okay. Assume marginal cost is increasing. Okay, so let's see if this is going to work. Yeah, okay. But let's look at, let's pretend like this is a perfectly competitive. So that means our price is constant, isn't it? Right? Now, and don't think about these curves right here. Just use your imagination. I mean, just get something here. Yeah. So don't think about this curve right there. That's not there. That's not there. Okay. We're just thinking about the price is here, and the price equals demand, right? For a perfectly competitive, right? Price equals demand equals average revenue equals price. And they're going to produce where marginal cost equals price right here. and if price also equals average total cost, that means they're producing. If price, okay, well, let me just put price also equals demand. Demand equals marginal benefit, right? Same thing. So if that's equal, then if marginal benefit equals marginal cost, then we can say that's the socially optimum or the allocatively efficient place. If price also equals average total cost, we could say that that is the productively efficient output, which would be right here, right there. Now the question is, what if the marginal cost where they're producing is less than the average total cost? Okay, what if it is? And what if the price is higher than the marginal cost where they're producing? Well, that would mean that they're producing, say, somewhere right there, okay? And we're assuming that the marginal cost is increasing. Okay, so in order to get, let me get something here. Let me get a little thingy here. Okay, so in order to get from here, where the marginal cost where they're producing is actually less than the market price, they would just simply have to produce more, right? To get up to there. Okay. So if the product price is higher than the marginal cost where they're producing, and where they're producing and the price is equal to the average total cost, then they just want to get from here to here, okay? So this is a question that doesn't show you a graph. It's going to give you actually dollar amounts. So you're going to need to think about it, and it's very helpful to sketch the graph and really quickly. And if you give me 1 second here, I'll probably be able to just open up a file real quick that has most of these graphs on it already. If I go here, and then let's go to assignment 10. And while that's opening, I'll go to the next one and say that was number 4, right? Okay, define public good and understand why the government provides certain public goods to its citizen. Okay, so public good is simply a good that is what we call non-excludable and non-rivalrous, right? You guys read about that, and you should have watched a video about that as well, right? So the example would be like, well, why would the government provide it? Is because it's a public good is something that is really hard to exclude. So an example would be something like a national defense, right? That you can't really say, well, you're not paying taxes, so if we get in a war, we're not going to protect you, but we're going to protect everybody else who lives in your neighborhood because they've paid the tax. I mean, that just doesn't work. That's not, So a public good is something that the government usually provides because it's impossible to charge only the folks who use it, because it's something that cannot be excluded. It's impossible to exclude, and it's not anything that you would have would be considered rivalrous, like where there'd be rivalrous would be if there was a way that people would actually compete over using it, right? Like if there was a public park and it could only hold, a certain amount of people, that would be a rival risk. You can't really exclude it, but it's only so many people can swim in a lake. Then it just gets too crowded, right? That's how that would work, right? Number 6, identify specific conditions that would increase the demand for normal good, right? Well, that's just something. Why would somebody demand more of something? It could be anything. Well, it couldn't be anything, but things that it could be is they could read, something about a certain kind of, a vegetable that is really helpful to, really good for them, or some health aspect of it, or the demand for something could increase because it became popular for whatever reason. The demand for an item could go up because a person just had more income, right? That could shift the demand. So think about anything that could shift a demand curve to the right for a normal good, something that someone would buy. Now, a normal good would mean something, right? You should know this, that you buy more of when you get more money, right? An inferior good is something that you buy less of if you have a higher income, right? So if you're buying something only because you can't afford something better, like a really low grade of coffee, the cheapest coffee that they have, and then you get more income, you're going to probably buy a higher grade or a higher, a more expensive brand of coffee that maybe tastes a little bit better. That would be considered a normal good, because you're buying more of it when you make more income, or get more income, earn more income, I should say. Okay, understand how game theory is used in economics. Well, this is the key here. Is we use game theory to analyze how two parties operate when one doesn't know what the other one's going to do. And the example, or the most common type of market that we look at with game theory is an oligopoly, where you've got very few firms, and they're trying to figure out what the other one's going to do in order to in order to decide where to set their prices and how much to produce. Okay, so we use a game theory to understand the behavior of oligopolies. Where am I? Understand? Okay, number 8. Understand the relationship between marginal cost and average variable cost when a profit maximizing firm in a perfectly competitive market chooses to operate in the short run. So we're talking about marginal cost and average variable cost when they choose to operate. Okay, now I'm going to, I'm going to draw that. I'm just going to show you guys how easy that is just to draw. So I'm going to jump over here and go. And you've got the price line here, right? And you've got your marginal cost curve here, except for I'm going to turn it over like that. It's not exactly right, but close enough, right? Your marginal, actually, you know what? Let me just not do that. Let's just call this our, let's call that a mess up, right? This can be our, let me jump back over here to see what we have to have, right? Average variable cost. Okay. All right. So, okay, stop. So we've got that one, and then let's clone that, and we'll call that. So the average variable cost, let me make that a little bit, stretch it out a little bit, is here, right? So this is average variable cost, right? The lower one right here, okay? And this is average total cost. This is perfect, but you know, close enough. Average total cost is up here, and it's higher because, as you remember, average total cost equals average variable cost plus average fixed cost, right? So that's why it's a little bit higher. Now, when the price is here, and let's just draw the marginal cost curve as a straight line, it's easier. Let's just call it that, right? And so they're going to produce right here, aren't they? Where marginal cost, and I'll call that marginal cost, equals price, okay? Whoops. Now, that's where a firm, and let's go back again, a profit maximizing firm in a perfectly competitive market is going to always operate where price equals marginal cost. Always, always, always. So we put that right here, right? That's where they're going to, that's the price, we'll call that P, and the quantity, we'll call that Q, right? Now, why would they choose to operate? What would be the relationship between average variable cost, which is right here, and average, and where the marginal cost is up here in the short run? Well, they're going to operate in the short run when marginal cost is higher than variable cost, okay? That's or higher than or equal to, okay? Because the key here is marginal cost equals a price. So when you see marginal cost right here, substitute, you know, that's a synonymous or the same thing as saying price when it's a profit maximizing firm in a perfectly competitive market. So we're saying that price, really we're asking what's the relationship between the price and average variable cost. Well, price needs to be above or equal to for them to operate in the short run, okay? And you've learned that, right? It's got to be, so average of a variable cost either has to be somewhere down here or there. If average total costs were up here and average variable cost was above where price equals a marginal cost, the firm would shut down because they couldn't even cover, you know, they're not even making, you know, their profit is not enough to cover their average of variable cost. So they would shut down. If they're going to operate, then price or marginal cost has to be equal to or greater than average variable cost. Okay, it can be lower than average a total cost in the short run, but cannot be lower than average variable cost. Okay, and you've learned that. Okay, just they're just going to ask you. You've learned everything that you're going to see on this final and on the AP exam. It's just they're going to ask it in ways that could be a bit tricky. So you got to really know it. Okay, so we are at number 9. Calculate the quantity of apples that will maximize consumer surplus when given the price of apples. Okay, when given the price of apples and a table showing the quantity of apples and total benefit. Okay, so we maximize consumers' surplus when our marginal benefit equals marginal cost. Okay, so that's the key right there. So if I were to say, so if you're going to get actually this is going to be, how can I show you this without giving you the answer? If you have a graph or a table, right, that shows quantity of apples and total benefit, okay, you're going to want to be able to look at it and figure out what the marginal benefit is. Okay, so if you had, let me just show you real quick. So if you had a quantity of apples of 4, so quantity of apples equals 4, okay? And let's say the price of apples, the price of apples equals $3, okay? Oops, sorry, $3, okay? Now, remember, marginal cost needs to equal marginal benefit in order for this consumer to maximize their consumer surplus, okay? Marginal cost needs to equal marginal benefit, okay? So just give me 1 second here, okay? So marginal cost and marginal benefit is okay. You know what? I do not want to give you the answer, so I'm going to highlight that one and I'm going to draw something up because I need to show you something, but I don't want to do it and show you the answer. So let me just highlight that one. Come back to it because I want to give you a little more to help you because it's a little bit tricky, but let me draw something, and I don't want to take time to do it tonight because we're almost out of time. I'll do one more, and then the Thursday I'll actually draw a table. Yeah. Okay. Going. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, Eric, did you say something? So I'm going to draw a table here to actually show you how this is. So you give you an example. So this is easier. But for 10, after a change in price when given demand curve showing different. Okay, this is easier. Okay, this is just simply looking at a simple demand curve, and I will draw it out really quickly. Let me just do it right here. Again, actually, yeah, let me just jump back here. Let me just do it. If we look at a demand curve, right, like this, right, and the price is here, then consumer surplus is going to be this area right here, isn't it? All this, isn't it? Yeah, come on. Well, Not quite it, but see if I can squeeze. There we go. There we go. All that, isn't it? Now, so you simply need to be able to. So if I had numbers here, you could just figure out the area, like 1/2 a base times the height, right? Now, if the price were to change to here, right? Some sounds okay. Then you would just simply compute using the numbers, like say this is there's going to be numbers here, okay? You just simply compute the difference in the area, okay? That's easy. So just as long as you remember the consumer surplus is whatever is the area below the demand and above the price. So that would actually expand this down to something like that, right? So that you would compute the new area, 1/2 base times the height, and then if they're asking for the difference, you just subtract the old area from the new area. So that's easy. You won't have any problem. So that's the first 10. Thursday, we're going to do this again at 8 p.m. and I'll probably try to go over at least the next 20 or more. Okay. All right. Before we go tonight, does anybody have any questions on the first 10, except for number 9, which I need to actually draw a table to show you how that works, okay?
I think I'm good.
Okay. I'm going to say this over and over and over again. If you know the graphs, and and I've given you a study guide that a while ago that has all the graphs and all the formulas. If you know those really well, and you can sketch them really quickly, then you can figure out most of these questions. Okay. All right, guys, and I will show you. And they'll it's very important to know how to look at what they give you in terms of the information they give you in the question, and figure out what you need to do to it to get the answer. If that makes any sense, because like if they give you a total benefit, and you need to know marginal benefit, then you just need to compute the changes, right? And I will show you that Thursday. So hopefully we'll get more students. Thank you for coming. I will certainly record your attendance, and it will not hurt you at all when I sit for your final grade. Okay, it'll actually. Well, not actually. It will help you, and plus it'll just help you, right? Because it's just good to sit to take time and think about this, without being distracted, and really figure out, the relationships between these variables, okay, and everything that's going on. So thank you for coming, and I will see you guys hopefully again Thursday night at 8 p.m. Okay. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and study your quizzes, and go over this study guide. Especially, like I've already had students send me emails that with specific questions on I don't understand what you're talking about with number 16. So if you would go over it before the session, and you have any ones you really want to, that you're really confused about, I will really try and help you with those. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I will see you Thursday evening. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.